Mark 2. Now after some days, when he returned to Capernaum, the news spread that he was at home. So many gathered there was no longer any room, not even by the door, and he preached the word to them. Some people came, bringing to him a paralytic carried by 4 of them. When they were not able to bring him in because of the crowd, they removed the roof above Jesus. Then, after tearing it out, they lowered the stretcher the paralytic was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now, some of the experts in the law were sitting there turning these things over in their minds. Why does this man speak this way? He is blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Now, immediately when Jesus realized in his spirit that they were contemplating such thoughts, he said to them, "Why are you thinking such things in your hearts? Which is easier to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Stand up, take your stretcher, and walk'? But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins," he said to the paralytic, "I tell you, stand up, take your stretcher, and go home." And immediately the man stood up, took his stretcher, and went out in front of them all. They were all amazed and glorified God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." Jesus went out again by the sea. The whole crowd came to him, and he taught them. After he went along, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at a tax booth. "Follow me," he said to him, and he got up and followed him. As Jesus was having a meal in Levi's home, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with Jesus and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the experts in the law and the Pharisees saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, they said to his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" When Jesus heard this, he said to them, "Those who are healthy don't need a physician, but those who are sick do. I have come to not call the righteous, but sinners." Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. So they came to Jesus and said, "Why do the disciples of John and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples don't fast?" Jesus said to them, "The wedding guests cannot fast while the bridegroom is with them, can they? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they do not fast. But the days are coming when the bridegroom will be taken from them. At that time they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunken cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the patch pulls away from it, the new from the old, and the tear becomes worse. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the skin will be destroyed. Likewise, new wine is poured into new wineskins." Jesus was going through the grain fields on a Sabbath, and his disciples began to pick some heads of wheat as they made their way. So the Pharisees said to him, "Why are they doing what is against the law on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and he and his companions were hungry? How he entered the house of God when Abiathar was high priest, and ate the sacred bread, which is against the law for anyone but the priest to eat, and also gave it to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath. For this reason, the Son of Man is Lord, even of the Sabbath." Jesus is going to Capernaum. The news spreads that he was home. So he comes back to where he is staying. The news spreads. And it is so, there's no longer room, not even by the door, and he's preaching the word to them. So Jesus is teaching them. They crowd the space where he is at. This is a familiar passage to us, the paralytic man. Now, here's the thing that we don't always think through. If there is no room and the place is crowded, when they lower the man from the ceiling, aren't there people underneath? How do those people move out of the way? How do those people move out of the way for the man who is being lowered to be able to be lowered? I mean, I guess they do eventually, but I'm just saying, it is standing room only. They can't get through the door, which makes sense if you're carrying a person and then you're lowering. I'm just thinking, think through that for a minute. They have to clear the space when this happens. They have to clear the space out. And I love this aspect of this, though. When Jesus saw their faith, not the man's faith, their faith. So their faith could include the man, but it certainly includes the 4 people carrying him. The 4 people have such faith in God, have such faith in Jesus as a healer. They have taken upon themselves to bring this man to Jesus to be healed. They have such confidence in Jesus' ability to do this, they will stop at nothing in order for him to heal their friend. They will stop. No, so we brought him, we carried him all this way. We don't know how far it is. They carried him all this way. Oh, wait, there's a crowd. We can't get through the door. Not a problem. We're going to remove the ceiling tiles. Now, if you think of, our modern roofs, you would be doing destruction to do that. An ancient roof, you could move stuff out of the way. They're moving it out of the way. They are lowering him. Wow. How are they lowering him? They have a sheet and whatever. They are prepared to do whatever it takes. So wherever they got the resources, did they bring the resources with them? Doesn't matter. They figured out how to get Jesus in front, or their friend in front of Jesus. They have tremendous faith in taking action to bring him to Jesus. So he sees their faith and he says, your sins are forgiven. Now some experts in the law are sitting there and they're thinking over in their mind, why does he say, this man speaking, he is blaspheming? Who can forgive sins but God alone? Now immediately Jesus realized in his spirit that they were contemplating such thoughts. So he realizes in his spirit, it doesn't take Jesus to be supernatural here to figure this out. Okay? You are saying things in front of people who are going to disagree with you. I know if I were to stand in a crowd of, my town, there's going to be, no King's protest going on. Not saying good, bad, otherwise. There'll be a no King's protest next weekend, in my town. If I went down there with a Trump sign, I know what their reaction would be. I don't have to be a mind reader to know what they're going to say or do. And if someone shows up with a Trump sign, I don't have to be a mind reader to know what they're going to say or do. I already know how that's going to work. I already know what's going to be said. I already know the gist of all of their thoughts towards each other. So Jesus, in saying what he says, is going to know that people are going to think. There doesn't have to be a supernatural mind reader, Jesus, to do this. He just has to be a very astute person observing things and knowing people's hearts, seeing what they were thinking in their hearts. So, Altus. Likewise, it says Noah was righteous, but it does not say anything regarding his sons or any of his wives. It only in the merit of Noah that they were saved. Yeah, so through Noah they are. What does 1 Corinthians... I'll come back to the 1 Corinthians passage. Let me finish this passage first. Okay. So he then changes it from your sins are forgiven to take up your mat and walk. And immediately the man happens, and they say, we've never seen anything like this. The healing of someone who is born this way would be an amazing thing. So they've not seen someone heal someone. So we have different levels of healing. Healings are happening continuously. We have someone who is a paralytic, who his friends bring him. Jesus heals them. Again, we have the teaching of Jesus, and we have a sign to affirm that his teaching is true. So we have that goes side by side. And it says they were amazed and glorified God. How do they glorify God? By claiming we've never seen this. That is a way of glorifying God. This is amazing. This is beyond what we know. So the man actually does also take up his bed and he goes home. We have very little introduction to the man and him saying anything. We just have his friends and his obedience. Now Jesus went out again by the sea. The whole crowd came to him and he taught them. As he went along, he saw Levi. So he's going out, he's teaching the crowd. Now he sees Levi, son of Alphaeus, at a tax booth. This is Matthew. So sometimes he's referred to as Matthew, sometimes he's referred to as Levi. He's at his tax booth, so he says, follow me, He said to him, he got up and followed him. So the very same way in which Peter, Andrew, James, and John leave immediately everything that they have behind and go and follow, I think is how we're supposed to read this too, because it says he got up and followed him. Not he secured his booth and he did all these things and he took his money home and whatever it is, whatever this looked like, he immediately leaves. And Jesus was having a meal in Levi's home. So we have Peter, Andrew, James, and John and a meal in Peter's mother-in-law's house. And now we have Levi, who is called a tax collector, Matthew, who is called, and we have a meal in his house. And he's eating with sinners and tax collectors. Why? Because the other people wouldn't associate with him when he was a tax collector. So these are his friends. He invites people over. Hey, Jesus is coming to my house. Who do I invite? The people I know. Hey, Omega, welcome in. So his disciples are there, and so the Pharisees see this, and they ask, why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners? So now we're going to get questions of Jesus. We've gotten actions of Jesus. Now we're going to get questions of Jesus and Jesus' disciples. Why did he eat with tax collectors and sinners? When Jesus heard this, he said to them, those who are healthy do not need a physician, but those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Righteous don't need to be called. They're already in line with God. They're already following God. So sinners are the ones that need to be called. So he is going to them. Now, John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. So they came to Jesus and said, I think here that it's John's disciples and the Pharisees who come, the Pharisees' disciples, or it's the Pharisees himself. But anyway, they're confused why Jesus is doing it differently than their practice. We're teaching our people to fast. Why aren't you teaching your people to fast? Your disciples aren't doing it. So they asked the question. Jesus said to them, the wedding guests cannot fast while the bridegroom is with them, can they? Are you going to have a fast at a wedding? Well, let me just tell you this. My daughter's wedding, my sister, came, and no, we're not eating the food for the wedding. We're going to go out and have whatever they were going to have afterwards. They didn't come to eat at the wedding. No, we're going to eat later. It feels insulting. No, I have gone through great expense. Yes, I did. Great expense to have all of this provided so that no one goes without, and you are choosing to go without. No. You should be here celebrating, eating and drinking and having a good time. And no, you didn't participate. And then you didn't make a big deal out of it, but you did, So no, when you're at the wedding, everybody should be partaking in it, not abstaining from it. You don't go to the wedding to not partake. You go to the wedding to be a part of it. And so you don't fast. So I am here. I am the bridegroom. There will be times later for them to do that. Now is not the time. There will be a time when they will do that. And then he gives two more examples of you don't sew a new patch of cloth on an old garment. Now, this might be something that we don't know and understand, but it's going to shrink. And when it does, it will pull the fabric that's underneath it and cause problems. So you need to pre-shrink anything that you put on an old garment. I don't know if anyone does patching anymore, but that's how that would work. So he gives that natural example to help back up what his teaching is there, combining the new and the old. And then he does it with wineskins as well. If an old wineskin is dry and it's not going to expand and stretch, and you put something in there that's going to ferment, it's going to burst and everything will be ruined. So in both cases, if you do things different, they're going to ruin both the old and the new. So he is bringing in the new, and it is going to ruin both the old and the new if you do this in a different way. So Jesus, then we have another occurrence. He's going through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples are picking heads of grain. So this would have been, so he has done some healings on the Sabbath, not confronted about that, but it was on the Sabbath, and now he's going to have his disciples doing something on the Sabbath, and they're going to be confronted about it. They're picking heads of wheat. That would be harvesting. Harvesting is work. Even if you're just grabbing it for yourself, that is going to be considered work. And so they are having the question, why are they working on the Sabbath? And then Jesus brings up an example of the law is clear about this, and yet the law could be violated if there are circumstances around this. So what is the heart of the thing? And that's what we're getting at here. And so he is pointing out that Sabbath was for our benefit as people. It was not to be a weight around our neck. It is for our benefit the Sabbath is created, not for it to be a burden. Sabbath is not to be a burden. Sabbath is to be a great thing for us. So if you were slaves and you're a slave, you don't get a day off. Now, as you are been freed from slavery, you are celebrating a Sabbath that the others around you are not. You are taking and relaxing and trusting in God and not working and working yourself to the bone. So you are trusting in God. God is providing for you. Here is a way in which God has provided. The grain is right there. It's available, and you take and eat. And so that's what Jesus is getting into.